this is a lecture that I commonly give at the seminary at Andrews and in other places, other workshops, because one of the biggest problems the Adventist Church faces is we are very vulnerable to being scammed. It's not just false theology that certain peripheral ideas creeping in, but there's a lot of stuff out there on the web regarding health information. And while we're not only talking about plant products, botanicals, herbs, this is definitely in that area, because there's a huge amount of stuff on the web promoting this and that. And I think it's valuable for us to alert ourselves. But before we do this, the gentleman sitting here alerted me to the fact that something we should mention before we go on, and that is that in the last lecture we talked about regulation of herbal products and reading labels so that we know what is promised, what is guaranteed, what is standardized in this product. And I recognize that recently most of Europe, pretty much all of Europe, went under regulations for controlling herbal products to be sold in a very definite and precise way to safeguard the population. And so a number of governments have put into play quite strict regulations as to what can be sold. And this is an awesome protective mechanism from some of what we're going to be saying here about being deceived by being promised what isn't delivered. There's nothing worse than buying a car and then getting home and finding the car doesn't do half of what the salesman said it would do. Maybe you don't have those types in Europe, but you don't like to be cheated, you don't like to be duped, you don't like to pay money and not get what's delivered. So this safeguard is a very good thing. And from what the brother told me, it's applied to different measures or different degrees in different countries, so that more products are regulated in some countries than in others. But you know, I think what some people will do if they still want to get a product, you can always grow it in your backyard and nobody's going to look over the fence and report you to the authorities, whatever. But those things that aren't regulated, as I understand it, they will be unable to make any health claim. And at that point, of course, they're less saleable or less attractive when people see things and they don't promise certain benefits. So these things are all potentially good movements to protect us, and that's what we need. We want to get to the core of what's beneficial. So here we're looking at promises that people make for memory and for curing all kinds of things, and it goes back to the old, what we think of as the man walking around in the medieval village in England somewhere with a little black bag with snake oil in it that could be sold for just about anything and everything. Maybe my picture prototype is totally wrong and unfair, but that's what books and things lead us to believe. But it's no different today. Human beings today are no different than they've been throughout all of ages. There's always been people, crooks, who are trying to make a quick buck or a quick euro, selling you flour with clay in it or whatever. It's human beings, we haven't changed. The bottom line is to get yourself rich as fast as possible, right? Is that your perception of the rogues out there in society? So we have to be alert. If I was to ask all of you now, who woke up this morning and said, Lord, may today be a miserable day. I want everything to go wrong. I don't want to be happy. I just don't want a good day today. Okay? Can you imagine anybody saying that? No. Everybody, when they wake up, they want to be more vibrant, more happy, more bounce in the step, more whistling and singing joy in their heart than ever before. We always want to be joyful and happy. And so the entrepreneurs and the marketing people in society, they know this aspiration of every one of us to have joy, to have peace, to look good, to feel good, to be good, to, whatever, okay? So we're bombarded by people who are wanting to sell things to us so that we'll not have stress, or we'll have peace of mind. So there's all kinds of powders and pills and potions and creams and gizmos and gadgets and everything all the time, something new. You go into the store in downtown Prague, into that beautiful big 4-story marketplace, whatever it is called, I don't know, near the powder tower, is that where it is? Just so many things to scintillate and excite you, and new things to interest you. It's always something new coming out. And this little cartoon describes, I think, very nicely how many of us feel in the marketplace. We're like puppets being manipulated by, we have a flashing sign, manager's special or reduced just for, it's almost like we walk in the day, especially just for you. It's like we just arrived at the right moment when something is 50% off, and they make all kinds of promises like you see here, and we almost develop the skepticism that we don't believe anything we see because everybody's trying to oversell it to us. And this book that we saw a little bit earlier, promoting noni juice, which comes from the Pacific, and it's wretched stuff. I don't know how people can, the fruit is really high smelling, but you read, and this is just a partial list of the things that are claimed that it can do. It can increase your energy and lessen allergy symptoms, improve your asthma condition, lose weight, improve arthritis, and on it goes. And anything that you have that's not here, we can add it in here and be sure that it will do this. And the list is so long, and it's a health educator's joy to be able to see that this book can cure anything. But it's a general rule that the more things that something claims that it can do, the less likely it can do any of them. Because there's no panacea. As good as garlic is, it's not a panacea, okay? As good as anything else that you can think of, it's not a panacea. They don't exist. Coral calcium, which is eaten in the Marshall Islands and other places in the South Pacific where cancer and diabetes and heart disease is less. Oh, it's because of the coral calcium they eat. That's what we need to eat. Well, making correlations is very risky. It's like buying a DVD machine parallels the highway accidents in Prague. Okay, so you see the same increase. As DVDs go up with time, you see road accidents go up. Therefore, if you buy a DVD, you're very great at risk of having a car accident. Well, we know the stupidity of this reasoning. Because two things exist together doesn't mean A causes B. Okay, so we have to, people use some of this reasoning to sell some of these products. We'll talk a little bit more about Ambrotose and goji juice. We mentioned that briefly before. These red berries that come from an exotic place. If it's an exotic place that nobody can go and check out, then it has a certain mysticism about it, it must be true. I can give you many examples of this, which is just unbelievable how people can follow through with it. And then we talk about colonic cleansing. We'll show you this a little bit later. This will cure your body of all parasites and toxins, and I know there's people in this room that even swear by these things. It's okay. I'm flying out Friday morning, so if you want to get rid of me, tomorrow is one day last. Otherwise, I'm off. But There's no data. In fact, there's great harm to some of these things, and we'll share this with you. But this is what we're bombarded with constantly, every day. New things are coming out that promise us great health and peace of mind and a sexy body or enormous strength, all of these things. Here's one from the recent days, Acai Berry, which is, well, you can see pictures of it here, blue-purple berry that grows on palm trees in Brazil. And now it's popular all through the US for making smoothies and making bars, and it's guaranteed for all kinds of health-promoting properties. But the big thing on the web is to lose weight. It just flushes pounds out of you while you sleep. You know, it gives you more energy and more metabolism activity, and can get rid of all the toxins out of your body, and you'll look so great. People will say, man, you look so beautiful. You know, it's the acai berry I'm eating. It's like, give me a break. Now, I will say this. I am a big supporter of acai berry. They are rich in anthocyanins. They are loaded with phytochemicals, like all the berries. They are on the top of my list for awesome food, okay? But I eat it for enjoyment as a berry. I eat it because it protects my health against chronic diseases because of these anthocyanin pigments. But all these other things, it's all hocus pocus. Okay, the claim is that it'll make you eat less, metabolize fat. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, says that claims are utterly false. There's zero, zippo, nothing, nada evidence in any of this. The internet weight loss scams have been active for over 2 years, and herbs comes into this. There's all kinds of herbs that have been promoted on the web for you to lose weight. They're all scams. What we need to do is eat less and exercise more. It's not as simple as that, but that's the basic formula. Hundreds of thousands of consumers have been snookered by fake blogs, phony websites, bogus celebrity endorsements, and doctored before and after photos. And credit cards have been billed exorbitant charges. This is all what's happened because people have been vulnerable to believe those photos. You have these, you see them on the web. This is what you look before. Fat, you know, ugly. But you take this product in just a few months, oh, everybody in the office will say, man, you look cool. What's happened? You know, this is the message that is communicated. And all you have to do for 6 weeks, buy this acai berry and take it every day, and this fat will melt off. You'll look super, super duper. And if you look carefully on the web, you'll get all these blogs advertising these different women that are telling you all these things. It's the same message with a different picture. Same pictures, the same words appear on 75 different blogs. They all claim to have lost 25 or 35 pounds by using this acai berry and other expensive weight loss supplements. And then there's bee pollen, another popular thing that's just surged recently. The honeybee, it makes the perfect food, rich in all the vitamins and minerals and hundreds of enzymes in the right proportions, just so you'll have beautiful complexion, longevity, great health. They claim that it slows down aging, improves your athletic ability, it alleviates impotence for men, promotes weight loss, prevents infections and allergies. Actually, it increases allergies if you're allergic to the protein in the pollen. All these health problems it alleviates. And many people are taking a tablespoon every day for receiving protection. And unfortunately, there are no scientific studies to back these claims. Okay, and then for the older people, you know, or maybe students taking exams, maybe, but it's usually older. You know, the old codgers, old fellows like me, you know, we're starting to lose our marbles a little bit. We can't remember where we put our keys, or we put down our key for the entrance to the hotel room when we go back there. We couldn't remember it was the bathroom, the bedroom, whatever, you know. So we're attracted to these memory pills. And it's the same thing. They all have gimmicks to tell you that it'll do this and do that. Fancy sounding names from exotic places in the world. But unfortunately, these things don't work. And then we have this product, Natrol, made by Natrol, brain speed memory. And Hyperazine A, which we saw on the last picture there, on the right-hand side. This is a Chinese herb, supposed to be good for memory. And you can go online, the website, you go to this speedometer, brain speedometer, it's brainspeed.com, okay? So you take powder of this and then take the test, and you repeat this over and over again, and your score will go up, your memory will be improved as you do this. Well, anybody knows that plays football, the more times you shoot at a goal, the more likely the ball will go in the net and you'll score a goal, right? You practice, 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 no matter what it is, volleyball, skiing, football, anything. So there are people who are dumb enough to believe that by taking this powder, this is the reason their score is getting better and better and better and better. And it's not doing anything. It's supposed to help with memory. There's another one, Neurostin, which has all these claims about fighting free radicals and stimulating neurotransmitters and making you mentally more sharp, reversing memory loss. There's no data to show that any of this really happens, but people believe it, buy it, spend a lot of money, and are disappointed. Then we come to colonic cleansing. Do you need a cleanse? Do you need to get rid of toxins from your body? Well, this idea, while some people think it's new, it's actually been around a long, long time. That the waste, when we eat, and the waste that goes into our intestinal tract poisons the body. Way back, 3,000 years, people believe this. But you know, the body is designed to cleanse itself. The GI tract turns over every 2 or 3 days. New cells are made. Okay, you see, go to the web. If you want a real interesting night entertainment, Google colon cleansing and then click on images, and you'll just be rolling in laughter of what people claim they find from having enemas in the GI tract. This gooey, like chewing gum, big strands of brownish gunk and semi-poop and all kinds of stuff that come out that's just revolting. Well, I have a GI specialist who does colonoscopies every day of his life for 40 years. I worked with him in Africa. He was doing a different work there and I was teaching, but he lives in Utah, and I've asked him, so when you do these colonoscopies, what do you see up there? Do you see all this stuff that people talk about that we need to cleanse out? He says, I don't know what they're talking about. I've never seen it in 40 years. But they get these pictures and whatever, and the American Medical Association banned this in 1919, but in recent times it's made a comeback. The liver is the great cleansing organ of the body. This is where all toxins are detoxified, all cancer-causing things are nullified and excreted from. The kidneys, a filtering system. We have a created, designed mechanism to purify the body on a regular basis. There aren't corners where gunk collects, and there aren't places where parasites burrow in and just diminishes our... This is the reason why Western society, we're so encumbered with so many problems because we're full of all these parasites, people say. Well, when you think of what people are eating and the lack of sleep they're having and the lack of exercise and the high stress and breathing secondhand smoke and on, is it any wonder that our bodies are not functioning the way? Don't blame parasites and don't blame the need for a colonoscopy or need for a colon cleansing. Cleansing kits are like having a large enema. Irrigation of the colon can be dangerous. One can perforate the rectum or colon. In other words, poke it, cut it, tear it, so you get leakage. Infections can develop that lead to abscesses and severe systemic infection. Okay, this is what physicians tell us. So it's real danger. Okay, now you have these other advertisements. This is really cute. This TV ad that for 7-Up. You know, it shows cans being picked from fruit trees. What does it give you the idea? What's the image convey to you? It's natural, it's fruity, okay? And the narrator says it tastes better than ever before. We've stripped it of all artificial stuff. And all it's got is 5 ingredients. And what are the 5 ingredients? Besides carbonated water and high fructose corn syrup, the other 3 are citric acid, natural flavours, and potassium citrate. And this is supposed to be beautiful fruit off a tree. The marketing is so deceptive. Okay, and then we have this other powder, which is scented starch crystals. And its claim is called, as you can see in the picture, called Sensor. You can eat all your favourite foods and lose weight. Only $59 a month. You sprinkle these starch crystals on your food and just eat. Whatever you want to, you'll lose weight. Okay? And what the claim is that this will make you feel full. It'll signal to the brain and you'll eat less. Well, the reality is there's no peer-reviewed study, and the only study is really made by the company who did this. So all this before and after is just all makeup. And again, it's something to spend a lot of money on. And then you have this Fabulous, made from palm oil, oat oil, and water. And it's supposed to trigger the brain that you've eaten enough, you're satisfied, okay? In an 18-week trial, women who lost 17 pounds regained 3 pounds if they ate 5 grams of this mixed with yogurt twice a day, compared to 7 pounds without plain yogurt. So this is something that people have found that works in one study in a group of people, in a small number of people. They extrapolate it to, to make big claims. Eat up to 30% less without feeling hungry. Sounds too good to be true. And then we have ephedra or ephedra. You go onto the web and check this out. Most of you could buy this. It's a banned substance. And unfortunately, many websites do not disclose how dangerous it is. It can kill you, okay? It can cause a blood pressure crisis and can actually kill you. Okay, then you have a claim, this is often in Europe, more commonly than in America, that food mixtures are bad. You shouldn't mix your food. You should eat fruit for breakfast, your protein for lunch, and so forth and so on. Carbs and protein, you shouldn't mix. It messes up your digestion. You ever heard of this? Anybody heard of this? Yeah. But what's the truth of it? Can you mix different foods so that you have to keep all your carbohydrates in one meal and your proteins in another meal? I heard this so much. As a dietitian, I decided to look up food composition tables. So I decided to take 1 grain, 1 fruit, 1 vegetable, 1 legume, 1 nut, and look at them and see what were they made out of. So I chose chickpea, brown rice, broccoli, almonds, and banana. So I wrote down the number of calories from carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. So you tell me, what should I be eating if I don't want to mix my fat with my protein or my carbohydrate with my protein. Maybe God screwed up. Maybe he didn't know that you couldn't mix carbohydrate with protein, because when you look, everything is in everything, in different proportions, sure, but so when people make claims, we have to be suspicious. We have to think carefully through this. And while it's true that some people can't mix certain fruits with certain vegetables, it's also true that all of us have different physiology, and we need to be in tune with our body, even with the use of herbs. If something's not working, change to another one. If something works for you, it may not work for somebody else. And don't look at them like, man, what's wrong with you? Because everybody's physiology is totally, that's what doctors know. When they give you a pill, they monitor you, because sometimes the pill is going to be very strong and other people it's going to be weak. So you have to be in tune with your body. Okay, now we come to Mannatech. I don't know if you have this product here. Ambrotose, Mannatech, it's made in Texas. It contains 8 sugars. That's what they claim, that you can't make in your body. And without these, you have all kinds of illness. And if you take this product, white powder, every day, you'll be free of all these diseases. Okay, they are sugars, so they're called glyconutrients. And these are some of the things it cures. Okay? And what did we tell you before about any product that claims are made for it that's multitudinous? Beware. Don't get sucked in. Okay? And many of the things here can't be treated by Western medicine. And that's what they often push. The common things, or on one hand, or else the very difficult things that Western medicine can't cure very good. Things like Down syndrome and other things like that. So, in 2006, there was a law case against them for making false, misleading, deceptive claims. And this is an announcement that the Attorney General has serious evidence that this whole product is bogus. So I decided to look at what are these 8 special sugars, okay? And we have a list of them, but interestingly, the product says that it's made from arabinogalactan, which is a fibre from the bark of the larch tree. It's made from the fibre in aloe vera. It's made from the gum of an Indian plant, and another gum which is commonly used in food thickening properties, triganthan. These are all plant gums used as emulsifiers, and yet they claim that they've been isolated and purified as single sugars or monosaccharides. Mannatech claims that these 8 sugars, and we've listed them there in yellow, and a number of them we actually eat, like glucose and galactose, they're in our diet, but other ones there are supposed to be only available in sufficient quantities by eating every day a spoonful of this Mannatech. Well, the problem is, even though they claim you may not be receiving these sugars in the right amounts, and that's where Mannatech steps in and helps you, there isn't any clinical data to prove that these 8 sugars are actually needed or have beneficial effect beyond the normal eating and operation of the body. So, a study that was reported 2008, no clinical study has been found in the medical literature that supports the use of this product. End of story. Scam. Billions of dollars have been made. A lot of people thought they were getting benefit. Maybe some even did because of what we said earlier about the placebo effect. And that's why I mentioned that there are some products that have no benefit but actually work because people believe they will work. Okay, there are other people who believe that you need to have a daily vitamin pill every day to stay healthy. So here's just a couple of studies. A vitamin E study that came out last year, that men have been taking vitamin E for years to protect them against heart disease, showed no effect. A multivitamin tablet desirable for older adults. Yes, this is true. This is a case where it's true, because as you get older, your absorption system doesn't work as well. So it's good to take a multivitamin, but not a mega dose. Okay, you're all familiar with the term 1 a day, where your recommended daily values are in that pill. That's okay. Large doses of vitamin A, D, B6 and niacin are known to be toxic. And yet if you go online and look at multivitamins, many of them have toxic levels of these things. What about vitamin C to prevent a cold? Does that work? How many people believe vitamin C prevents the common cold? Oh, we've got 3 or 4 brave souls. The rest of you are hiding under the... You know, the claim is that if you eat a gram or more of vitamin C every day, you can prevent a cold. What's the real evidence? From clinical trials, randomized clinical trials that were done in Toronto, other places, but Toronto did a big one. They found that vitamin C does not prevent colds. Universal similarity results in all the studies. However, there's some good news. It does slightly reduce the severity of the symptoms because of the acid nature of it. And it reduces how long they last, maybe by about a day. So instead of 8 days, 7 days. Big deal. Well, if you are a company and you have 2,000 employees, having 1 or 2 or 10 or 15 people off 1 extra day, it does impact productivity. So vitamin C does work in some ways, but not in the degree. Now, we come to the next picture, which is the most interesting. This is real fun, this picture. This was done at the National Institute of Health with about 300 workers. And you can see here, prophylaxis. This is what people got all the time. They either got a placebo, and we've talked about that, or they got 3 grams of vitamin C every day. Okay, then what happened when they got the cold? This is what happened. They got either a placebo or 3 grams of vitamin C. Okay, so this group was getting placebo, and then they got another placebo. This group every day for prophylaxis, placebo, and then when they got the cold, 3 grams. So when they got the cold, this was getting nothing, 3 grams, and 6. Number of colds per person, no different at all. The duration of the cold, how long did the cold last? If they knew what the medication was, no different. If they knew they were taking placebo as a dummy, they knew it wasn't going to work. Taking vitamin C, they knew that. Over here, I'm sorry, this was not suspected. They didn't know, it was the same. But here, it's where it's suspected. And what do we notice now? Okay? Those that were getting the vitamin C here, and those that were getting the vitamin C here, what do we notice compared to those that were getting the placebo and knew they were getting the placebo? Did it make a difference? If you knew that you were getting vitamin C and you believed that you were getting it, then your cold only lasted about half as long. But if you didn't know, it didn't make any difference. If you did know you got the vitamin C, then the cold, you got over it quicker. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that some people are stupid? Or some people it works and some people it doesn't? What do we call this? We call this psychosomatic medicine, isn't it? When you believe something, what did we say before in the last lecture? When you believe something works, it probably will work. If you believe a herb is going to have some potency, it probably will. And if it really does have therapeutic value, then it might even work better and longer. Okay? But here the story is, if you want to take vitamin C to help with your cold, then believe it's going to work, and it will. If you take it with suspicion, with question, then it probably won't work. What about the coconut craze? You have that here? Coconut's the miracle fat. Will do lots of things. You'll lose weight, it'll control your diabetes, it doesn't raise your cholesterol, it won't cause blood to clot. Miracle stuff. It was all started by this Dr. Fife, naturopathic doctor. And these are some of the things he claims. You know, wonderful, amazing, bring it on. Where is it? Please bring me some. I mean, it does everything you need. The miracle fat. When you look at coconut compared to soy and sunflower, look at the saturated fat, the monounsaturated fat, and the polyfat, what do you notice? You'll notice that coconut has 87% saturated fat. What do you know about saturated fat? It's bad. You see the plant oils have very little. Most of it's poly. So the claims that this is, but it's medium chain fats, they'll tell you. Well, when you look at it carefully, you'll see this in brackets. The most atherogenic of the fatty acids are your lauric, myristic, and palmitic fatty acids, C12, C14, and C16. In coconut, there's 70% of the fat are these atherogenic. So don't talk to me about the medium chain. There's so much of these other atherogenic ones that doesn't matter. What do the studies in monkeys show? Long-term studies show, and this is with 3 different species of monkeys, that coconut oil will raise your cholesterol, will raise your triglycerides compared to corn oil. Now we know corn oil is okay, but coconut compared to corn, your blood lipids are going to go up, the direct opposite to what's claimed. What about thrombosis? Monkeys also, again, checked with coconut versus some plant oils like soy and peanut. The coconut oil did increase the risk of blood clots. Again, the data is in direct contrast to what is claimed. So what's the truth about coconut oil? It does raise cholesterol, it does increase your risk of clot formation, but this is a classic one. It lowers your body weight, it helps you lose weight because it has less calories. Ooh, that sounds cool, a fat with less calories. Well, if you look up in any composition, it'll show you that coconut oil has about the same amount of fat per gram as the vegetable oils. They claim it's 6.8, but I think the author is dyslexic, not 8.6. It is 8.6, and they claim it's 6.8. What about raw food? Raw food's the answer to all our ills, right? Cooking food destroys all the enzymes, and we need the enzymes for good health. Helps purify the body. And the people say that if we heat food above 48 degrees, we destroy all these valuable enzymes that help with food digestion. Bad news. Well, what's the truth of the matter? The stomach is highly acidic. What happens to enzymes when you drop the pH? They denature, they lose their activity. So then the proponents of raw foods, they come back. They're so cunning. They come back and say, but when they pass out of the stomach, the body reassembles them to make them the proper natured formula, and so they now work. Where they get these theories from is beyond my imagination. I mean, people who are involved with shams have the most vivid imagination that I could ever think of, even more than the Greeks, who could see bulls and lions and castles and all kinds of things in the sky. which some of us struggle to visualize, but sooner or later we see them. Now, a raw food diet does lower cholesterol and have a lot of benefits, but it's basically a vegan diet, okay? But if it's taken to extreme, then of course there are some problems. Raw food, let me say this clear, because I know there's going to be somebody who walks out that door and said, that Craig guy from the States, he's cuckoo. He said, that's not what I said. Raw foods are excellent. Raw foods are valuable. Raw foods are great. But 100% of our calories from raw foods is not. Okay, you get the difference? If you eat 50, 60, 70% of your diet as raw foods, that's great. But 100%, no. That's what raw food diets are often projecting. And here you see some of the reason. Your calories are below the recommended levels. Protein is low. Vitamin B12 is almost nothing. Vitamin D is nothing. Omega-3 is good. Calcium is below normal. Iron's good. Zinc is below normal. So what are we saying? People who eat only raw foods, when they eliminate food groups, because you can't eat raw potato, you can't eat raw lentils, you can't, well, people say you sprout them. That's a partial answer, but when you eliminate a lot of foods because you can't eat them raw, then you're going to be nutrient deficient. This is what's published in the literature. So we're advised in Ministry of Healing, we're given the warning about being extreme in our dietary practices. We need to be very careful and not restrict ourselves to a very meagre diet. We need to have variety. That's principle number one in what we call Nutrition 101. You know what Nutrition 101 is? The very basic bottom line nutrition class. The first principle everybody learns is, for good nutrition, have variety. Some cooked, some raw. Okay? Did Ellen White eat cooked food? Huh? Was she on a raw food diet? What did she eat? You look at the list there. She ate baked apples, baked potatoes, baked bread, but cooked vegetables. She used cooked foods as well, not everything raw. And in fact, there are some advantages to having food that is cooked. Did you know that the red pigment, lycopene, in tomatoes is more available to your body 2 times, 3 times, or even more when you cook the tomato? So cooked tomatoes out of a can may be better in terms of the lycopene than eating the fresh tomato off the vine if you're just looking at one thing. You have to look at many things, but just let one thing. When you cook your broccoli, the isothiocyanate phytochemicals that are in there are more available to you, more cancer protection when you have cooked food. So don't think raw is the best. It's not the best, but it's good. Cooked is good sometimes, raw is good sometimes, therefore variety. Your protein is denatured. When you bake your bread, the calcium and the zinc is more available because the yeast activates an enzyme that gets rid of a compound called phytate, which binds the zinc and binds the calcium from making it available. So baking your bread rather than eating flat bread is an advantage because you're getting more calcium and zinc. The bacteria are also destroyed. This is the problem we have in the States now with sprouts and spinach and other things that aren't properly washed. You don't usually cook those things. And then the sugars that are in beans and other foods that cause gas, that some people have problem with, bloating and gas, these things are diminished by cooking. So does cooking have value? Of course. Do we eat everything cooked? Of course not. We need to have variety and balance. Now what about soy? Is soy good for us? No. Soy is wretched, miserable stuff you hear on the web. Is this true or is this garbage? You know, many of us are eating tofu every day here in the kitchen. What should we believe? This is only a very small snippet. I have a whole 2 hours on soy, but I can't give it all to you in 2 minutes. But just take a couple of things. Male fertility. It just kills sperm. All these female hormone things are in soy. And it stimulates breast tissue, so the chances of having breast cancer are accentuated. For children, giving them all this soy phytoestrogens is going to make them turn into homosexuals and all these other things that are on the web. These are all the claims that are made. Are they true? We have to, realistically answer these questions. Well, the National Institute of Health have studied the male sperm count, and I don't need to get into all the details, but I usually ask a simple question. The Chinese are the greatest eaters of soy in the world. Do the Chinese have restricted population growth? Are they just a very small minority people? Are the male Chinese having problem with fertility? Is soy safe for infants? Been on the market for 50 years. Do we see crazy kids or adults now walking around with problems because they had soy when they were a kid? Is there any correlation between soy formula and being gay? There's nothing. It's all hype. It's all just excitement on the web to get people away from soy or whatever it is. There's no effect that soy formula has even on the growth or health risk of children that have been fed. Even the pediatricians who have been working with this for years have not found anything. Okay, so again, it's just hype. Here's a study that shows that women who eat tofu more than 4 times a week, their risk of breast cancer is 30% less. And if they were born outside of the US, it's 50% less. So if you're going to be born, move outside of the US so you have greater protection. Well, what is the secret here? The secret is that, I think Dr. Fraser mentioned it yesterday, that girls going through puberty have an additional protection against breast cancer as adults when they've been using soy during their adolescent years. So when you're born outside of the US, that probably means that they were growing up as children outside of the US. So this protects us against breast cancer. But people will say, hey, wait a minute. Estrogen stimulates breast growth. Soy contains what looks like estrogen compounds. Therefore, if you've had breast tumors, don't eat soy. It's going to increase the reoccurrence of breast tumors. A theory. It's all talk about. What does the scientific literature really tell us? Well, first of all, the isoflavones, the phytochemicals that are in soy, are not estrogens. They're not even phytoestrogens. That's what they were called. The real description of them are SERMs, S-E-R-M. They are selective estrogen receptive modulators, and they have a different effect on the bone that they have on breast than they have on cardiovascular tissue. And it's a win-win situation for the woman because it protects them. The isoflavones in soy protect them against cardiovascular disease. It increases their bone density and it protects them against recurring breast cancer. That to me is a win-win-win situation, which is in total opposition to what many websites are showing. In fact, a large study in China, the Shanghai breast cancer study, that followed women for 5 years and tracked those who ate soy and those who didn't, and they found that soy foods do not have an adverse effect on breast cancer survival. We have 5 minutes remaining. Is that what it is?
I was just thinking about what about the genetically modified soybeans?
I was hoping nobody would ask me that. There's a lot of, since you've asked it, I have to give some kind of answer here. I'm answering it as a non-American, okay? You understand that, because Americans tend to be not very suspicious about GM, but I'm in Europe, so I can be more free and open with what I believe. genetically modified things are all sped up. The new variety is all something that has happened quickly by inserting genetic material. What effect this has, the typical scientist can't give you a positive answer. It's a question. You know, and growing up, my daddy told me one thing that I've never forgotten, and that is, if in doubt, throw it out. Now, that may not be what you have to do. The problem in America is all your corn, all your soy, not all, but most of it is genetically modified. You know, you buy certain soya milks like Silk, and they've contracted with certain companies, and they keep the genetic purity all the way through, and there's no genetic modification. So when you buy it, it has the stamp of no GM on it, and you feel comfortable with that. But you can't be paranoid and try to avoid all GM, otherwise you go crazy because there's so much of it in the marketplace. Does that make it right? No. What is the health effect? I don't know, okay? I don't have no idea. Certainly there is some evidence that allergies, maybe the rise in allergies amongst children and in adult population in general, may be connected with GM. There's some experimental animal data which doesn't look good, but we don't have any well-known human data. So the question is, for me, is if I can avoid it, yes. Am I going to worry about it? A little bit, but not too much. Until we get more results, more data, I don't know what the true answer will come out. It may be proven to be sort of okay, or it may be shown to have some risks that we need to be careful of. So is soy a good choice? I just will go through this list and take 1 minute to do. I think we have 10 minutes left. We want to recognize that soy is highly nutritious plant protein food. It's very rich in omega-3. A lot of people don't realize that. They think only in terms of walnuts, flaxseed. Chia is even better than all of that. You have chia seed here. You know what chia is? Okay. But soy also has 7% of soy oil is omega-3. It is safe. It's good for the environment. One of my friends at Andrews did a study on the footprint of cow milk versus soy milk. And in doing the analysis, they found that the footprint of bovine or cow milk was 2.5 times greater than for soy milk. So soy is good for the environment. You would say so? If it has a smaller footprint, smaller carbon footprint, protects against cardiovascular disease and cancer. There are a lot of papers we could show you on that. Diminishes bone density loss. It does not increase the risk of recurrent breast cancer, as I showed you from the China study. And it doesn't diminish male fertility or cognitive function. That was another question, that it causes brains to shrink. Okay? But this was a retroactive study that had some flaws associated. One study, other studies that have been repeated have shown that it actually, soy has the opposite effect. It actually improves cognitive function. Now, just one or two other things we quickly wind up here. What about juicing? There's a movement now that we really get true benefit, proper nutrition, if we would just put our food into a vitamizer or some mixing machine and strip out all the fiber, and that makes all the nutrients available. Okay, what is the answer to this? Is this true? Do all the nutrients flow into the bloodstream without having to be digested? Well, take a look at your digestive tract. Look in the mirror, look in the physiology book sometime. What do you have in your mouth? Some people have 32 teeth, I think, right? At last count. What are the teeth for? straining the juice. What are they for? The GI tract is 20 foot long. If we were taking vitamin pills and drinking juice, why would we need 6 meters of GI tract? Does that make sense? And the fruits and veggies, which are high in carbohydrate, the digestion begins in the mouth, and you need to grind things up to start the digestion process. So it really doesn't make sense, does it? It just goes completely against the way that our bodies have been designed. We know that too much fluid hinders digestion. Drinking your food short circuits the intestinal physiology, disrupts fiber, increases the glycemic index of food when you do that. Okay, all of this is negative. So why not liquid diets? Well, it never hurts to go back to the red books, does it? You know what I mean by the red books? The red books that are not so red anymore. Maybe they're black here. They're black books, blue books, whatever. Let's go back to the red books. Ministry of Healing. The more liquid that's taken with the meals, the more difficult it is for food to digest, for the liquid to be absorbed before digestion must begin. Food must be thoroughly chewed. Swallowing liquids all the time is not going to allow for the proper digestive function. So, wrapping things up here, what are the characteristics of these salesmen who are telling us all these things that we've talked about in the last hour? Well, they usually make way exaggerated, blown out of proportion claims. They usually support them by testimonials. They bring on the TV all these famous people and they make all these claims. I don't know how much they were paid to say this, but they distrust the health professions. Doctors, nurse practitioners, physicians' assistants, they don't tell you the truth. They're keeping the truth from you because they want you to keep coming back to see them. This is what some of the ideas they proclaim. They promise miraculous cures. You see the cartoon here. They always have things to sell at a high price. You know, they analyze the mineral content of your hair. Oh, you're chromium deficient. No problem. I have over here a special today just for you. Normally $199, offering to you $59. This will cure your chromium deficiency. This is the way they play on people's fears to get you to buy different things. So what is it that makes us all susceptible to scams, whether it be a herbal or a food product or whatever? What are we looking for? We all want better health, don't we? Is anybody here in perfect health? We all have some problem, don't we? We all want, the women particularly want to look beautiful and younger. If there isn't anybody here that's female that doesn't want to look younger and beautiful, please leave the room because you totally need a reality check. Okay? Everybody wants to look beautiful. Young men want to look stronger. We want to slow down aging. People want to have a better sex life, or have greater energy. This is what the world is marketing. So are we at risk of being scammed? They know all these things. If you think about what people are scamming, it's to promote and push us to buy things that lead us in this direction. So how do we separate the phony from the legit, the credible from the fake? How do we, you know, most of you in this room are health professionals. You've had training. But what about the millions of people out in your churches and in the communities that don't have the benefit of all your training? What are they going to do to be able to decipher the phony from the good? And these we'll look at some answers to that, but these are the groups that are most likely who are attacked, who are vulnerable. The old people, the teeth are wearing out, the nervous system, the hearing is going, the eyesight is dimming, the GI is not functioning as well. Okay, all these things happen to all of us as we get older. So are people bombarding them with solutions? Of course. Those who are seriously ill and they can't get a cure. Those who are wanting to lose weight. Oh my. You go to the bookstore and you see a row after row of books promising all kinds of solutions. You come back a year later and what do you find? The books are all gone and new books. Well, if these were so effective, why have they gone? It's just amazing. People with chronic conditions, arthritis, backaches, allergies that Western medicine doesn't have easy, quick answers for. There are herbal things or other things, or magnets that you rotate over food that will tell you whether this will cure you of something. All these things that people are pushing. Well, it doesn't hurt to go back to the Holy Script, does it? Go back and see what the Bible says. And Solomon screwed up. He made a lot of mistakes, but he also left us with a lot of good counsel because of mistakes that he made. And in Proverbs 14, verse 15, is to me, a very important thing that covers everything we've said in the last hour, and that is, a simple person believes what? Anything. Whereas a prudent person thinks carefully before they step forward, taking something or doing something. So what are we saying? Think, judge. Okay, what are half a dozen red flags to help you? Okay, number one, red flag. You all know what red flags are? When you see a red flag on a highway, that means slow down, look out, be careful that you're not going to fall into a pit. Number one, recommendations that promise a quick fix. You buy this powder, this can, take a tablespoon every day, a month later, 30 pounds lighter. Is that a quick fix? Beware. Number two, recommendations are accompanied by advertisement to help sell a product. Whenever there's a website and down at the bottom you click and it leads you to a vendor to sell something, beware. Beware. Just give it a second thought. Claims that sound too good to be true. One single product can cure a multitude of things. We've already told you that. Red flag. Number four, the article is sensationally written with lots of capital letters and a lot of punctuations. You get emails like that. They're so annoying. A string of like 30 different letters, big capital letters and 15 punctuation. It's like, don't miss me, this is very important. And it's mostly garbage. Unfortunately, are you listening? Unfortunately, many people never ever check this article out. But because it comes from the pastor, their doctor, well, hopefully not either of those, but a friend, a close friend, let's just say a close friend, somebody they trust, what do? They look at it and say, wow, how did I not know this? I know some people who could benefit from this information. So they go into their inbox and they forward this message to 300 suckers. And those 300 people, what do? Ditto, exactly the same thing. And within 20 minutes, what's happened? Millions of people from Portugal to Siberia, from Norway to Athens, have received this message, and who's checked it out? And yet, because it's passed between friends and trusted emailing people, everybody thinks, and the more times you talk about it and pass it on, the truer it becomes. Isn't that the way it is? You hear something in community, somebody whisper about something, totally not true. But if somebody else whispers, keeps whispering this rumour, after a month or two, do people believe it? Yes, this is the way we operate. Number 5, the information is all anecdotal and not attributed to any reputable organisation, university or federal aid. You need to check it out. Get a second opinion. If they want to amputate your leg or do invasive surgery in your heart, will you listen to the doctor and say, oh, okay, just lay me down, cut me up? Is that what you do? Not me. If I'm going to have major something, I'm going to ask a second opinion, right? And if they're different, then I'll get a third opinion. It's good to do the same when we're checking out health information. So many people go to the internet for medical information. Is it good or is it bad? Yes. Is it good or is it bad? Yes. It's both. It's good and it's bad. If I sprain my ankle and it's Friday afternoon and the clinic is closed for Sabbath and I need help, I go to the web and I look, how do I treat, and I see rice, raise it, put ice on it and all the other things. That's benefit. But if I go onto the web and find out all this, some of these scam things, it's bad. So it depends on how we use it. So we have to know, is it good or is it not? Does it empower us or does it give us unreliable information? And it's important to have a healthy dose of skepticism, have a second opinion. I like this cartoon. I already diagnosed myself on the internet. I'm just coming here, Doc, to get a second opinion. So how do we protect ourselves? How do you teach your neighbours and your friends to protect themselves against all these scams? Number one, we check who put the information there about us. Who put it up there? Find it. If you can't find it, be suspicious. Okay, what's their mission statement? Search reputable health professional organisations. You have in your own countries, you come from different places, you have reliable health organisations, paediatric medical associations. Look on their website, see what they say. See, does it jive with what you're reading over here? If it doesn't, then you distrust what you're reading. Get a second opinion. Watch out for pyramid schemes. You know these schemes which are built on just pushing products and making money? And beware, as we've said earlier, of websites linked to vendors. So to give an example, we had 2 cases, canola oil and aspartame. Canola oil went around and around and around and around saying it's not even fit for car grease, it's toxic, it's poisonous. And research papers show that canola oil actually lowers your risk of heart disease, and it's a safe and useful oil. Aspartame causes brain tumours, it's dangerous, it causes MS and many other things. This was started by somebody by the name of Nancy Markle, and nobody can ever find out who she was. It was a pseudonym, it was a made-up name. They started this and they said such interesting and exotic things about aspartame. It went around and around the world like I described earlier, and nobody checked it out until finally somebody started researching. So this is what happens. Cyberspace can be dangerous. So we've got listed here, and you can add to it because I'm sure you have others, but universities, their websites are very safe. You don't want to lose the credibility of your university by putting stupid things up. Government agencies, okay, they want to maintain their reputation. These are all American. You can put your European ones here. Famous centres like Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, internationally famous, world famous. They have the world's best physicians working there. So you look at their websites. They have fabulous websites, A, B, C, all the way through Z, listing all the diseases and treatments. And you can find on the web hospitals and doctors and their recommendations, their evaluations by patients. Are they risky? You're going in for surgery, look up whether this surgeon has a good record of safety and all the rest of it. We have to use the web. These are valuable things to do. So there are trustworthy sites, and then there are professional health organisations. And these are just some other sites, Berkeley and this one down here, if anybody's interested in. It's very, very accurate. It's my website. Vegetarian-nutrition.info. I developed this, a Romanian is my webmaster, and I put all kinds of articles up there, not just about vegetarian nutrition. But if any of you want to go there, there is some articles in Spanish, French, Romanian, but mostly English. And you can download and use in your health education programs. Everything's free. You don't have to have a password or anything. Aren't you tired of passwords? I have a whole book of about 100, 200 of these passwords. When I go onto a website, I have to look it up. No password, just go on, download anything you want to. So what is the danger of fraudulent information? Well, if people are very sick and they're trying things that don't really work, they could be in danger of prolonging their illness. And if it's a cancer, they could die, right? Secondly, they could take an overdose of vitamins and minerals. This happens. Niacin, B6, A, D, these are all known to be toxic. If you're taking large doses, and don't say that nobody does, because if you go online and try to buy a multivitamin pill, we do this at Andrews in a lab experiment, and my students are just amazed at what people are selling. Sometimes 20, 30, 40 times the daily value that you need of a certain vitamin. Why do you need that much? Who knows why they make them so powerful? Or they might be on a weight loss diet that they're taking something they read off the web that might be harmful. Or the last thing here is really bothersome to all of us as health professionals. When you get all this marketplace full of scams, full of trash, full of nonsense, full of excitable information, what does that do to the consumer? Well, scientists can't agree. One says this, one says oat bran lowers your cholesterol, another one says it raises it. Does anybody know the truth about anything? What does it matter? I'm going to die sooner or later. So they take a very laissez-faire attitude about their health. And to me, the greatest quality that every one of us in this room can do is to take responsibility for our health. The data shows that people who have responsibility for their health have better health and live longer. And when you're not in control, you feel out of control, you don't know what's happening, your health is poorer, you live less. So we need to inform ourselves intelligently with truth, with information, and be confident and have faith and trust in God. I mean, all of this, without trust in God, believing God, who's the source of all healing. We learnt this morning the Greek word sozo in the New Testament means not only to save, but it means to heal. Saving is healing. They work together. Shalom in the Old Testament is the Jewish word for complete health. We're not just worried about cholesterol and blood pressure and blood glucose. We're interested in the total life of the person. So these are some other newsletters that are available in the US that can be purchased. I myself like Tufts University. It's like $20 a year. You can probably buy it overseas for a little bit extra for mailing. And let me just conclude on some statements from Ellen White. This relates to everything we've said, I think, this afternoon. And that is that we need to be careful as health reformers that we aren't so rigid. Remember what Dr. Harding said yesterday morning about the blog from this non-Adventist person that wrote and said how fit they were, or I mean, how people might be working towards being so fit and so healthy and eating a good diet and getting all the sleep. But if they're a total jerk, who cares, right? So we need to be looking at a total picture of life, and we don't want to be, we don't want to in our church be on the extreme, pushing things that other people, new members or people who've been a long time think, she's a jerk, he's a jerk. You know what a jerk is? A wacko person, a crazy person, somebody who's extreme, accentuated, and they're not balanced. So Mrs. White is saying we don't want to be so rigid and so extreme, have such narrow ideas about things, because what does it do? With narrow ideas, it does what? It destroys, it hurts the very thing we're trying to do, promote healthful living. Health reformers, above all others, should be what? Careful to avoid extremes. We must study diet deeply and broadly, and we're all involved with that. We want to learn as much as we can, but we should not criticize others who eat differently. We're all at different experiences. Don't come and look at me and say, you shouldn't eat tomato and apple, a vegetable and a fruit. Well, tomato is a fruit, actually. You know, if I enjoy this, don't look upon me as weird. I shouldn't look at you and go to a potluck and say, does this have cheese in it? Because I don't eat cheese. This is not Christian, okay? We have churches in America sometimes where people make these sort of judgments because they're so rigid. They criticize others. No one should think of himself what? As the standard of which all other people should be judged. No. We make our own decisions about how we live, how we exercise, where we go, whatever we do. We try not to offend other people, but we don't judge other people by what they're doing. We're all at different stages of our Christian walk, and God wants us to reveal the Spirit of Jesus. And the health message is to reveal Jesus more fully. It isn't just to pay our bills or less, pay the bills, or to look better or stronger or feel better. It's so that we will have a better service to Jesus, right? If this is not your motivation, then study and pray to get onto the focus that we need to help everybody in our communities, in our families, where we work, to live a healthy lifestyle so that we might live longer and serve Jesus more fully. Health reform becomes health deform when it's carried to extremes. So in summary, we need to be aware of false ideas about health propagated in the marketplace and on the internet. Beware. Get a second opinion. Don't fall for the trap. Be skeptical. A totally raw food diet and excessive juicing are not ideal ways to get good nutrition, right? Some juice, some raw food, it's good, but not everything. Soy and stevia were just two products we looked at. They're both safe to use regularly, okay? Stevia is a herbal sweetening agent. Soy, of course, is a protein. Only use reliable sources of information and avoid extremes. And I think that brings us to the end of our 4-hour marathon. I want to applaud all of you for being wide awake, patient, asking good questions at the break. And I just pray now that God will give you the insight and focus and wisdom to keep in the middle of the road and be balanced, and share with other people what you've learned at this conference so that we might all advance His work for His glory. I pray, amen.